channel. My name is Faith for those of you who are new here, and this week I'm doing something I've never done before, but I have been meaning to do, and that is to challenge myself to an extreme grocery budget where I'm only spending $10 per person for an entire week. So for my family of 4, I will only be spending $40 on all of our groceries for the entire week. And I want to do this for 3 reasons. The first is to show how cheap a plant-based diet can be. I occasionally get emails from people saying, I find it so expensive to eat a plant-based diet, and I'm wondering what you're buying because some of the cheapest foods are plant-based foods. Rice, beans, grains, oats, fruits and veggies when they're in season, tofu, tempeh, all these things are really cheap. The second reason is because inflation is rising all across the world. So I know a lot of you guys are looking for ways to cut back on your grocery bill, so hopefully you'll find this video helpful. And the third reason is I've just been really thinking about how privileged I am to not only buy the groceries that I need but want. I often don't think about our grocery bill. I know it's not too much, but I wanted to just challenge myself to live a little bit simpler this week, and we plan to give the extra money that we save to some people in need. If you guys are interested, stick around. I'm about to head to the grocery store and I'll show you what I pick up for $40 for the week for my family of 4. If you're new to my channel, my family actually lives in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and so you might not be able to find these exact brands at your local grocery store, but in general, you should be able to find all of these items, and all of them are fairly inexpensive if they're in season or bought locally. So at the first store, I wanted to stock up on a lot of good quality protein sources such as tempeh, tofu, dried beans, and all of these items are really inexpensive here in Malaysia. Tofu was about 50 cents per block, tempeh about $1 per block, so those are definitely staples throughout our week, as well as some frozen and really inexpensive veggies like spinach and kale, and of course some rice. Whenever possible, and especially when I'm not on a budget, I like to get brown or whole grain items. So brown rice, whole wheat flour, whole wheat pasta. These items add a lot more fiber, protein, and nutrients to our meals. So if it's in my budget, I always go for the whole grain version. And this week I was able to fit in some brown rice and whole wheat flour. The second store I went to is in general cheaper than the first, so I stocked up on a lot of really hearty, cheap veggies such as carrots, cabbage, celery, and onions and garlic. Things like this are really inexpensive and they can add a lot of flavor to main meals. Of course, we got a bunch of bananas. They are extremely cheap here, as well as mangoes. So I really wanted to make sure that we had some balanced meals with fruits and veggies. So I bought the cheapest veggies in my grocery store, which happened to be bananas, mangoes, apples, and I ended up getting some frozen berries later. I knew we'd get sick of rice, so I wanted to get some noodles for the week, and sadly I couldn't get whole wheat noodles, so I got some white ramen noodles, as well as some white pasta. One of the cheapest non-dairy milks you can make is homemade oat milk, but I really wanted to bulk up the protein in our breakfasts when I could, so I bought some really inexpensive soy milk. And of course, a huge bag of rolled oats. As I mentioned earlier, I had some room in my budget, so I got some frozen berries just for some added flavor and nutrition. And in general, frozen berries are so much cheaper than fresh, so definitely a money-saving tip. Lastly, I found some pasta sauce that was fairly inexpensive that had some veggies in it, so I ended up picking up a jar of that. Okay, I am back from a successful, I believe, grocery run, and here are my 2 receipts. I ended up going to 2 stores because one is a lot cheaper than the other for certain things. In total, we get 4.35 ringgit per dollar, so I did the math and it actually came out to about $34 for everything, which is great because I wanted to be under because I plan to use some peanuts I have to make peanut butter, and then I also thought I might use some spices and sugar that I already have on hand, and then that should equal about 40 bucks. So let me show you everything that I got. I'm gonna stand on a chair so I can do it. So over here I've got lots of veggies. Thankfully, I didn't know how many I'd be able to get. Some local kale is pretty inexpensive here, so I got 2 bags of that. Broccoli wasn't the cheapest, but I got 2 heads for 1 meal, and then some organic chopped spinach. Definitely go for frozen veggies if you're on a budget. They freeze them at the peak ripeness, so they're really nutritious and a great way to save money. And then I got a ton of carrots for $1, cabbage, a whole head for less than $1, some celery that I need for a couple recipes this week. Mangoes are really inexpensive here. In America, these would not be cheap, so just go with whatever fruit is in season or local to your area and you'll save a lot of money that way. So I got 2 mangoes, and then over here I also got some apples that we'll put with oatmeal for breakfast. Of course, we got bananas. Again, they're so cheap here and just really high in calories and really tasty. We love bananas. I ended up getting some soy milk. You could definitely do without this, but I thought I could cook our oats in some soy milk to add some more protein. This isn't my ideal milk. It has sugar in it, but I didn't feel like making my own this week, so I just got 1 carton to kind of bulk up our oatmeal. And then some frozen blueberries, which were on sale. I thought that would be really good on oatmeal and a good way to get in some berries this week. For protein, yeah, we're very blessed here in Malaysia to have really cheap tofu and tempeh. So I got actually 3 blocks of tofu. They're about 50 cents each, which is amazing. Each of these thick blocks of tempeh are $1 each, so I got 2 of those. Got a bag of chickpeas and 2 bags of red beans for some dishes that I plan to make. Onions for flavor. Where'd my garlic go? Garlic for flavor. These are really inexpensive ways to add lots of flavor to your meals, so I got that. I ended up getting a bag of flour. I plan to make some bread. Thought we could maybe use it to make really simple banana pancakes. Could also use oats and banana to make simple pancakes, so that is a great way to save money by making your own bread. I got a huge bag, not huge, but a hefty bag of brown rice for just over $1, so that is a great way to get in whole grains, fiber, really inexpensively. Rolled oats, of course, that will be our main breakfast this week. And then ideally I would get whole grain noodles, but when you're on a budget, you gotta go cheap when you can. So I got just about a pound of spaghetti and then some just plain fun noodles just to switch it up so we're not having rice all week long. And I believe that is everything that I got this week. I am curious to see if it will fill us up and feed my family of 4 for an entire 7 days. Oh yes, and spaghetti sauce to go with the noodles. As soon as I got my groceries, I did some meal prep for the week. Obviously, convenience packaged foods are really quick and easy, but they cost more. So when you want to eat cheaply, you need to do some cooking, some meal prep. So here I am soaking my chickpeas before I cooked them in my pressure cooker. I just soaked them in some hot water for an hour or 2 just to soften them up, and then I cooked them in my pressure cooker for about 40 minutes until they were nice and soft. The next thing I meal prepped was some homemade bread, and sadly, as I was making this bread, I realized that the flour I bought was bad. It had clumps in it and some strings, so I knew there must have been eggs or something. I still went ahead and made the bread because I wasn't sure, but as soon as I started baking it, I could tell it was not rising well, and then when it came out of the oven, it had a weird smell. So I'm showing you the process because I ended up using some of my own whole wheat flour that I already had in my pantry to just replace the flour that I bought for the week. So we still enjoyed my whole wheat bread all week long, but it was technically not with the flour I had bought, but I just measured out the same amount that I had bought and made sure I just used that throughout the week. Yeah, my bread recipe has never done this. It's very flat and looks weird and kind of smells weird, so I need to make it again with good flour. The third thing I meal prepped was some peanut butter. If you know me, you know we love peanut butter and we eat a large jar full every few days or at least every week. So I set aside $2 worth of some raw peanuts I get in bulk to make peanut butter, and this came in so handy all week long. All you have to do is roast your raw peanuts for about 10 to 15 minutes or until they're golden and fragrant. And then if you have a food processor, just put them in your food processor with some salt, process until smooth, and you will have some natural, drippy, delicious, caloric peanut butter that is great when you're on a budget. All right, now that we are done with some meal prep, let's talk about what we actually ate this week, starting with dinners. Dinner the first night is brown rice. I cooked the chickpeas in my Instant Pot and then put garlic and salt on them on the skillet, and roasted broccoli. I wanted to show you our dinners first because usually our lunches were really simple or just leftover dinners, so I figured I would show you all of our dinners for the week first to help make the rest of the week make more sense. Of course, I'll be sharing all of the recipes we enjoyed this week down in the description box, so be sure to check those out. Dinner the second night is spaghetti and tempeh meatballs. For dinner the third night, I made my chickpea and rice soup. You just start by sauteing some veggies in a pan before adding in some vegetable broth, some dry rice, and you allow that to thicken before adding in either cashew cream or soy milk would be a really inexpensive option, and it's really delicious. Dinner on night 3 is creamy chickpea and rice soup. You can make it even cheaper by using unsweetened soy milk or coconut milk, but I used some cashews I already had in my freezer. Yum! The next dinner recipe was a cabbage and tempeh stir fry, and the reason I didn't spend my entire grocery budget was for recipes like this where I knew I would want to use some soy sauce that I already had in my pantry. Dinner the fourth night is a cabbage and tempeh stir fry, and the kids like theirs separate, hence why theirs is all like this. The next recipe I made for dinner lasted us 2 nights plus some extra leftovers, and it was for red beans and rice. All I did was soak some red beans, and then in my Instant Pot, or my pressure cooker actually, I just sauteed some veggies, added in the spices, and then my soaked beans and some vegetable broth, and then I just allowed this to cook for about 35 minutes at high pressure, and that left us with a ton of flavorful beans that we served over brown rice for the next 2 nights. Forgot I also have 2 perfectly ripe mangoes, so we're gonna have some mango on the side of our red beans and rice just because I'm not sure my kiddos love red beans and rice, so I want to make sure they have something that they love. Our last dinner in this challenge, man, we had so much food left over, so this is just another half of a cabbage, some carrots, whole block of tofu, some tempeh, stir fried with some spices and oil that we're gonna have with brown rice. And then I made a peanut butter sauce. Obviously you could omit this to keep it super low cost, but I just made some peanut butter sauce with a little peanut butter soy sauce, some other little things just for added flavor, but it is not necessary, and we still have so many leftovers, and now we're gonna have a bunch of this leftover as well. So feeling very excited. We made it to the end of the week. Next, I'm going to jump to our breakfast for the week. Most of our breakfasts were made with a base of oatmeal, maybe all of them actually. And on day 1, I made some oats cooked in soy milk that we topped with cinnamon apples and my homemade peanut butter. This breakfast kept me full for hours and everyone loved it. Breakfast the second day is banana oatmeal with more banana and peanut butter on top. For the third and fourth day, I wanted to switch things up just a little bit, and so I made some baked oatmeal with a lot of ripe bananas, the oats, and some soy milk. Of course, we topped this with our homemade peanut butter, and it was a really delicious breakfast. On day 5 and 6, I started by making some berry compote, which I used the frozen blueberries, a teeny bit of sugar, and some water, and all you're gonna do is bring this to a boil and allow it to simmer until super thick, and you can smush the blueberries, and it turns into a nice sweet jelly or jam or blueberry syrup, whatever you wanna call it, and we serve that on top of some oat flour pancakes. To make these pancakes, you're just going to put some rolled oats into a blender with some leavening agents, a little bit of sugar, and cinnamon if you have it. Blend that all until a fine flour forms before pouring it into a bowl with some non-dairy milk and a little bit of apple cider to make these pancakes nice and fluffy. I ended up making a batch and a half of this recipe just so that I wouldn't have to think about breakfast for a couple of days, and it was so nice to have it ready when I woke up in the morning. Of course, we topped the pancakes with my homemade peanut butter and the blueberry jelly, and this was such a great way to start the day. Breakfast the last day was some more baked oatmeal that I added a few blueberries to, and we served this with some more peanut butter and the berry compote. Last but not least, I'm going to show you the lunches we ate this week. Lunch for day 1 is homemade bread, tofu scramble, and crispy kale, and some very old cookie that we had on our counter that I just decided to give my kids because they saw it. This is lunch. Lunch for day 2 is the same as yesterday, except we're adding some peanut butter and jelly I already had in the fridge to our toast. So tofu scramble, crispy kale, and peanut butter and jelly toast. Lunch day 3, we are finishing off our bread. We are out of kale, so I shredded some carrots and added just a little olive oil, a little dressing, and I made some more crispy chickpeas. So kind of random. We'll see what we eat tomorrow for lunch. Lunch on day 4 is very weird. We are finishing off some leftovers. One meal is the tempeh meatballs and spaghetti. I'm gonna have some chickpeas with some cabbage stir fry and brown rice. I'm hosting a friend today, so they're gonna have the leftover noodles, cabbage stir fry with some tempeh, and I added a little bit of leftover tofu too for more protein. The kids, I just tried to give them what I know they like. So they like noodles just with olive oil. Usually I'd add nutritional yeast or some kind of other basic sauce, but we're just keeping it really simple. They like the chickpeas, and then they can have some apple and peanut butter on the side. And this is lunch on day 4. Lunch is leftovers. 3 of us are having noodles, leftover tofu scramble, and some cabbage stir fry. And then Brett is having the rice and chickpea soup. Lunch on day 6 for just me and my husband, because my kiddos are gone today, is the creamy chickpea and rice soup with just a little bit of leftover chickpeas from earlier this week to bulk it up. And this is a really hearty bowl, so this will definitely fill us up. Lunch on day 7, we made it, is just a bunch of leftovers, so people can have red beans and rice. They could have the stir fry over rice. I'm gonna cook up the last of our noodles for the kids because I know they love that. And we survived, and we'll still have some leftovers. If you guys made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I thought I would just pop on here as I'm editing the video on my bed and film a quick outro and just share some thoughts I had from this week. So we survived, I cannot believe it, and we even had enough for another day worth of meals, which is crazy. Granted, my kids are really little and don't eat as much as full-fledged adults, but we had plenty of food. One thing that I didn't share were snacks. We actually just snacked on some of the stuff I bought, but also stuff we already had in my pantry. I didn't buy any extra for snacks. I was mainly focused on using the money and the food that I bought this week on our main meal. So just keep that in mind. We definitely could have survived even with snacks on this budget if I had cut back on the fruits and veggies and bought more oats and peanut butter and stuff like that. Just wanted to clarify that. Obviously, living on a budget this extreme takes a little bit more thought and preparation. I had to make a lot more beans from scratch, homemade bread. I had to think about what meals could kind of mix and match well so that we didn't get sick of the same foods, but it's very doable. And I have so many other recipes and meal ideas for budget-friendly meals. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and I can definitely make another budget-friendly what I eat in a week. Also, I'm sure many of you don't live in Malaysia, or any of you, and so just keep in mind that what was cheap for me might not be cheapest for you, but I'm sure you can find other items that are really inexpensive. Dried beans are cheap anywhere, potatoes, rice, all of these items are super cheap. So it is doable to eat for $10 a person per week. No matter where you live, it just takes some thought and creativity. All right, guys, I'm gonna sign off now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye.